We're going to use the calculator to create the histogram for us, and we've already been given the classes. The classes are age 20 to 30 and then 30 to 40 and so on. So first of all, find the stat button, press that, and then choose edit, press enter. And we're going to use list 1 is going to be our classes, so our groups, which is 20 to 30 years and then 30 to 40. So we enter the minimum value of each of the groups. So we're starting at 20 years and then 30, then 40, and then 50, and then 60. That's the lower boundary of those groups. Now the second list is going to be your frequency. So we've got 5 teachers between the age of 20 and 30. Then we've got 4 teachers between 30 and 40, then 3, then 2, and then 3. So now that we've entered that data, you now need to go to stat plot, which is in blue. So press second, stat plot. And we're going to turn on plot 1. So press enter to make sure it's on. You see it flashing on. And then you're going to choose the type of graph you want, which is that flashing right now. That's the histogram. And then you're going to make sure that the x-axis is list 1. That's going to be the groupings along the bottom. And then your frequency is going to be list 2. So to tell it that it's list 2, we've got to go back and tell it which one on the list. So go to second list and choose L2 and press enter. So now check you've got list 1 for your x-axis, and your y-axis is going to be the frequency is list 2. So now you've got everything in here. We're going to press graph. And here's your histogram. But if it doesn't look like that, you might want to go to window and check it. So this is actually set me up automatically very nicely, but just double check. You want your x minimum to be the start, in this case 20 years, and your maximum is 70. That's what we want to see on the graph. And the scale is 10 because we're grouping every 10 years. We're going 20 to 30 years, 30 to 40 years. Now the y minimum, obviously it's 0, but I've put it at -5 so I can see the graph better. So it pops up a bit better in my window. You can mess around with that and see what I mean. Now the y maximum, I only really need up to 5, but I've got it on 8 so that I can also see it sort of in the window. It's not disappearing on me. So let's go back to graph. Now, this is the histogram, but obviously it hasn't got much data on it. So how can we use that? Well, first of all, it shows us the shape of the graph. Now, if I go to this button here, trace, and click on that, I can scroll between each of these boundaries. So this one here, this very first one, is telling me that between 20 and 30, so 20 years and less than 30 years, I have the frequency is 5. So if I scroll along to the next one, you'll see that between 30 and 40 years, the n is equal to 4, and so on. But you see how I've placed my graph nicely like this because I put my y-axis value starting at -5 and up to 8. Now I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to go back to window and just adjust that. Say I put my y at 0 and my the maximum at 5, because 5 is the biggest frequency I have. Now have a look what happens to the graph. I mean, it's still fine, but I just found it a little bit easier to read if I gave myself a bit of space. So remember, going back to the window is how you're going to make it look how you want it to be. So I'm just going to adjust this a little bit more and see. And that is how I want it. And there's the labels that the values that you need. Okay, so that's just a simple example, but now that you've got that skill with the groups, you can try it with some more complicated examples.